Marc Marquez has been lying to you since Jerez. Not about the bike, not about the championship, about his body. The one thing every interview since April 23rd has been built around proving was fine. "I'm physically better than ever," he said on the Thursday before the Spanish Grand Prix. "I don't want to talk about the injury anymore. If I'm not fast, it's my fault, not the injuries." 4 days later, with Jerez over and a podium still missing, Marquez quietly went to his doctors. What they found is the reason he broke down crying in front of a Ducati camera this week. And the reason that breakdown is not really about Le Mans at all. So what was he hiding? And what does it tell you about every public statement Marquez has made for the last 3 weeks? Let's start with what everyone watched and got wrong. On Wednesday, Ducati released its standard post-race inside Ducati video, edited footage, agreed with the riders, designed to make the brand look good. Inside it, Marquez sits in his pit box after the Saturday sprint crash. The injury that ended his weekend was a fractured little toe on his right foot, minor on its own, the kind of thing a healthy championship contender races through. And then Marquez starts crying. Every channel covering MotoGP this week led with the tears. They missed what he actually said. The toe wasn't what broke him. The toe was the trigger that exposed everything else he had been hiding. Here is the timeline nobody has put together. April 23rd, Jerez Thursday, Marquez tells the press he is better than ever. April 27th, the day after the Spanish Grand Prix, ends with him 5th. No podium, lots of questions. Marquez quietly goes to his trusted doctors for a deep check on the right shoulder. They scan it. And what they find is severe enough that he and his team immediately schedule surgery for after the Catalunya Grand Prix. Nearly 2 weeks before Le Mans, the operation was already on the calendar. Only 2 people inside Ducati knew: General Manager Gigi Dall'Igna and his track engineer Marco Rigamonti. Not the teammate, not the press team, not the rest of the garage. Let's be honest about how strange that is. The reigning world champion was running a hidden surgical plan inside his own garage. That is not a healthy team managing a healthy rider. That is a rider managing a team, protecting information from the institution that employs him because he needed the institution to keep believing in the version of him that is still racing for a title. Marquez did not just want the surgery. He wanted nobody to know it was coming until it was already done. Why protect a plan that hard if the problem is just a routine ache? Because the problem is not routine. Here is what everyone reported as a tear-jerk moment in the Ducati video and missed the meaning of. Marquez sits in that pit box, looks at the camera, and says it out loud. "I hadn't said anything." 4 words, past tense confession. Then, "There's a screw that's causing problems in my shoulder. It works. It doesn't work. It works. It doesn't work." He is acting out the stabbing pain with his hand. "That's why I already had the surgery scheduled for after Catalunya. I'm riding with 1.5 arms. And, oh yeah, that screw." The one Mark finally said out loud after 3 weeks of saying the opposite. It is a screw from a late 2019 operation. It bent. In certain riding positions on the Ducati, the bent screw makes contact with the radial nerve. The result is real and specific. Marquez loses strength in his arm for milliseconds at a time. Not always. Not in the gym. Only when he attacks the Desmosedici at full speed. The man whose entire career is built on attacking a MotoGP bike at full speed has been doing it with an arm that disconnects for fractions of a second every time he commits to the limit. That is not a season-long slump. That is not rust from missed races. That is a mechanical fault inside his body, and he knew about it for nearly 2 weeks before Le Mans forced it out. Multiple press conferences, multiple statements about feeling physically strong, all of them produced by a rider who had already booked the surgeon. The Aragon detail is what makes the deception structurally surgical. Before Le Mans, Marquez went to his own karting track in Aragon to test the arm under conditions he could control. He rode a 600cc Ducati V-twin with only the injured arm. No pain, nothing. The nerve only made contact with the bent screw under one specific load. Marquez attacking the Desmosedici at the absolute limit. The pain did not exist when he was warming up. It did not exist on a road bike. It did not exist on a smaller race bike. It existed only at the moment that defines a MotoGP weekend, which is the moment he was being paid millions to deliver. Then Le Mans happened. The sprint crash broke his toe. The toe surgery he needed gave him the cover story to bring the shoulder operation forward. 2 procedures, 1 operating theatre, 10 days earlier than the original plan. That is the version Ducati has now released. But the Inside Ducati video tells you what the timeline does not. While Marquez is breaking down in that pit box, he is not crying about the toe. He is crying about everything the toe exposed. And the line that matters is not the one about the screw. It is the line he delivers right after Daligna tells him the body comes first. Mark looks at his general manager and says 4 words. "I've already learned this." That is not a generic acceptance line. That is a direct callback to 2020, the year Marquez tried to come back too early after Jerez, watched his humerus plate break under the stress of a rushed return, and lost the next 4 seasons of his career to operations and championships he could not contest. 4 years, more surgeries on the same right arm. Marquez has spent the 5 years since that mistake rebuilding the version of himself that won 8 world titles. And on Saturday in Le Mans, the man who finally got back to a Ducati that suited him just told his team boss on camera that he almost did the same thing again. The cover-up was not reckless. It was the most disciplined thing Marquez has done since signing for Ducati. The plan was working. He nearly broke it himself. People thought the Inside Ducati video was Marc Marquez crying about a lost weekend. It was really Marc Marquez crying about the version of himself that almost made the same mistake twice. The 2020 Ghost was sitting in that pit box. The whole secret surgery plan, the doctors after Jerez, the bent screw, the Aragon test, the 2-man circle inside Ducati, was the system Marquez built to make sure that Ghost did not win. Le Mans, with all its tears and its broken toe, and the 7th shoulder operation since 2020, was the moment that system held. The cover-up was not the scandal. The cover-up was the discipline. The lesson he learned in 2020, the one that cost him 4 years, is the lesson that just kept him from losing the next 4. So what does that tell you about the man everyone wrote off 6 races into this season? And what does it tell you about Ducati, who let him run that plan and protect it until it broke open in their own video? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.